Right, let's bring in Sky News own Political Editor Andrew Clennell for his analysis as we wind into polling day. I made the point, Andrew, a little earlier in the program, there's momentum and then there's attention in elections. They're not necessarily the same thing. A lot of attention around the coalition's big housing pitch from the weekend's launch, but is it translating to momentum and, more importantly, into votes? In the key seats, of course. I'm not interested in seats that are not going to change government. When I had Erin Molan on last night, it was very interesting. Very strong policy recall 24 hours after that housing policy was announced. So people were picking it up, real people were picking it up on the streets. I'm interested in your take on this. Will that be enough to get the government back in the game? Or provided we don't see any gaffes from Albanese, will he get through and end up PM Saturday night?
I think the latter, Peter, and I take your point. I think it could actually shift vote 1%. Problem for Scott Morrison is he needs more than 1%. And I'm quite serious about that. I think it will be a popular policy amongst young people and amongst young people's parents, but it comes late. And I don't see many ads advertising it. They're still doing the leaky bucket ad. So how coordinated is this thing? And as a roll of the dice, it's the best thing Scott Morrison's done in the entire campaign, and Labor couldn't go with it. It was very politically clever. And the other point I would make, because you mentioned momentum, there's gaining momentum and there's stopping momentum. And I'll tell you what this has done, Peter. It's stopped Labor's momentum because they were building up momentum. So perhaps what you see out of this is Labor wins 76 or 77 seats instead of 80 because of this policy.
Yeah, I've asked around to people, I think it's the most conviction-led announcement from the Prime Minister. I think very authentic for the Liberal Party, beautifully pitched. Labor couldn't go there. It picks a fight with all the right people, reminds people that superannuation is their own money, and it avoids diminution of retirement incomes because the money's got to go back. So beautifully designed. Why was it so late? People have said to me that the Liberal Party feared a heavyweight campaign from union industry super funds. They get millions and millions of dollars paid back every year in terms of our fees on our money, so they're not going to like that. But also the point you make, I think, is right. Why haven't they got the ads out there? Where are the ads?
Well, what you just said about the fear of the scare campaign has been said to me by a senior minister, Peter, so that's 100%. They were afraid of the big, advertising campaign against it. Well, sometimes you've got to take a risk in life, don't you?
That doesn't mean they couldn't have had their ads ready to go. I mean, I haven't seen saturation ads from the Libs beyond the bucket ad, which, drives me nuts at the moment now. But anyway, we'll leave that there. But I think this is the missed opportunity, even if you had to bring it late in the campaign piece because you're worried about the union funds. Should have been plenty of ads. Talk to me about costings. I started my first campaign in the late 90s and costings used to be such a feature of campaigns. I think there's been bugger all focus on costings. We've got 37 policies from the Liberal Party in with Treasury and Finance as of today, a $1 billion improvement on the bottom line, still heavy on the debt, absolutely. We've got the opposition leader dodging and weaving today, but no one seems particularly interested. Am I old-fashioned?
Well, the landscape's changed, Peter. I mean, I just pulled up the forward estimates because I knew you were going to ask me about this, and it's 78 billion next year, 56 the next. These are deficits. 47 the next, 43 the next. So if Labor produces costings and they have 48 instead of 43 or 53 instead of 43, does it matter? It's such a big deficit. And, here's the coalition saying, oh, great, we got the deficits over the forwards down from 224 billion to 223. I mean, these people are just taking the mickey out of us, aren't they? Let's see what they really do, whoever gets elected. But we know that we've got, supposedly we've got tax cuts coming, which by the 2030s will be worth $37 billion a year. Let's see if Labor gets elected if they keep them, Peter.
Well, you and I will be around for a few more budgets yet. We'll see who's right, because I don't think I'll ever see Labor come in about 4 or 5 billion off coalition estimates in those forwards. And also, of course, they don't like coal, they don't like gas. If this is a hung parliament and the Greens have got any say, There's not much Australia will make in terms of export revenue, and that's been holding us up in the last few years. We're on a panel together Saturday night for the election.
I'm sorry, I was just talking about based on their promises, their costings this week.
I will keep this tape. I'll keep this tape. Hey, election night, we're together there on Saturday night. I'm interested in the seats you'll be watching.
I think it's all down to New South Wales, really, Peter. If Scott Morrison can hang on to his home state, not lose any seats there, he could be in a hung parliament situation. Otherwise, he is losing and Labor's probably forming majority government. So I've got a list of seats here. Let's have a look at New South Wales. First of all, Reid, I see that as gone. Robertson, I see that as gone. The Liberals tell me I'm wrong about it, or it's very close. Bennelong, I see as gone. Banks, that's one to watch. North Sydney, one to watch. Gilmore, that is one I think the government could win back with Andrew Constance, but wait and see. Then let's have a look at Victoria. Well, Labor's at a pretty high watermark in Victoria. There's been all this talk about the Liberals winning seats back. My information is that isn't going to happen, but we need to look at Chisholm. Goldstein with Tim Wilson is in a lot of trouble, and to a lesser extent, Higgins and Kooyong to a lesser extent. So you can see there, I've already got 4 or 5 in New South Wales. It's a third of the seats of the House of Reps. Queensland, don't really expect much change. Brisbane, maybe. Then Longman and Ryan, if Labor have a good night. I don't think we'll be looking much at Queensland, to be honest. WA, well, that's late in the night. So will that decide whether it's a hung parliament or not? Could well do. But you'd give Pearson Swan the Labor Party. South Australia, Boothby. So that's only one. Northern Territory, Lingiari. Government reckons they can win it back. I'm very sceptical. So the point out of all that is my original point. You're talking about 5 or 6 seats in New South Wales which decide it, Peter. And that is the Prime Minister's home state. It's also the opposition leader's home state. But frankly, Scott Morrison's a bit on the nose in New South Wales after the vaccine rollout and the fires.